Good morning, everybody. This is Paul Cramey. Today is the first of the two sessions for new employee orientation. You should be seeing on the screen the agenda for today and also for Thursday. And if you look at your GoToWebinar control panel, there's a handout section at the bottom. If you would like to print that off, just download that agenda, and then you can have a copy of it. Today, we're going to focus on the session 1 topics, logging in and logging out of control, do a real quick review of the home screen. We'll spend some time talking about how you find things in control, companies and estimates and orders, for example. Spend a little bit of time on user options, overview of the activity manager, and then just a quick point of reference to the to other resources that are available to new employees. Now I'm going to put this in the background and switch screens here, and then we'll begin. Okay, everybody should be seeing control. So let's talk about the first topic, which is logging in and logging out of control.
Paul, excuse me, we do not see control. We still see the agenda.
Come on. Still?
Yes.
All right. I don't even have it on the screen. Remote desktop.
Please bear with us, everyone.
Now to see if you can switch control to the
I'm going to make myself presenter.
Okay.
All right, and then I'm going to flip it back to you. And yes, now we can see it. We're good.
Now you can.
Yes.
I have no clue what was going on. Anyway, sorry.
Thank you, everyone.
I've obviously have logged into control already, so I'll log out and we'll log back in. But some of the key things here that I want to bring to your attention is that every employee that is going to use control, your owner or your manager will have assigned you a username and then a password. So everybody has to have a password and a username in order to log in. Now the passwords have to be at least 8 characters in length. They have to have at least 1 capital letter and 1 numeric letter. They can be longer than 8 if you like. Now most likely, if you're pretty new, the first time that you log in, you will be forced to change your password, and you would change it to one of your that's of your preference. Now, periodically over time, every 30, 45 days, control will require you to change your password, and you can't reuse the same password over and over again. So control is keeping track of the continuity and making sure that there is indeed changes. Now what I'm going to do is to log out. Mine looks a little bit different than what yours will because of the environment that I'm operating in. You're not going to see this top piece right here on yours. But so your username, you would put your username in this area and your password in this area. Now, I'm not going to do that because I don't need to on my system. So you would just enter your username, enter your password, and now you're ready to go. Now, I logged out and demonstrated this by logging back in. It would look exactly the same. Excuse me, it would look exactly the same if you had started from scratch. You would see that same login window. Now, over time, if you're using control and a bunch of time elapses and there hasn't been anything going on, there's two features in control. One's called auto lock out, and one is called auto log off. Now, the log off component of that is new. It's in the latest version of control, which is 6.1. Anything prior to 6.1, the auto log off doesn't exist. Both of those features operate off of the same set of rules. For example, if you've got a screen that's open, it won't log you off. If you're in a payment screen, it won't log you off. And there are some other similar rules that will influence whether the system will or will not log you off or lock the screen. The lock screen simply leaves control active, but you have to initiate it to get back in and to perform. Now, the amount of time that elapses, you can change yourself. You can change it from 10 minutes to 15 minutes to 20 minutes, whatever you would like. And I'll show you a little bit later on when we get into user options how you do that. I think the default is 10 minutes. So the key is that if the system is idle, no one is doing anything, then the system will either lock you out or will log you off, depending on whether you have one or both of those features turned on. The exit button is up here in the center. That's the recommended way to get out of control. This may not appear. And again, there's a slight difference between the 6.1 version and some of the earlier ones. May not have this button here. If you don't want it to be there, you can just click the little downward arrow beside it and take the exit off, and now that button will disappear. So I'm going to put it back on. You can also close out control up here under File and Close. So the key things here that I want to draw your attention to are the password concept, that you have to have a user ID and you have to have a password. Password has to have one capital, has to have one numeric letter, and it has to be 8 characters or more in length. And you will be required to probably change it the first time you log in if you're new, and you will be required to periodically change passwords, periodically over time. Let me pause here just real quickly and see if there's any questions. Not, I'm going to move on. Got a lot of things to cover, so I want to go as fast as I can without inhibiting questions. Any questions?
We don't have any questions.
Okay. Now on the home screen, this is the default for my. Excuse me. This is the default for my particular system that I've chosen. All of these little blue headings, these are called instruments. Now you can tailor your dashboard to whatever you'd like it to be. You can remove one of these instruments. You can add new ones. But more important than that I want to draw your attention to up here in the top left area is dashboards. And if you pull the downward arrow, These are other dashboards that have been created and are in the system that you can use. So if you're involved in, if you're involved in just the accounting, for example, you may want to use one of the 3 accounting dashboards. If you're more in the management area or involved in marketing, then one of those other 2 may be of interest to you. Let's just take a quick look and see what a different dashboard looks like. Let's go down to this one. So it's just, they all have the different instruments, but they contain different instruments to give a particular perspective of what's going on in the system that's more in tune to what you are looking for. Now I'm going to close that, come back to the home screen. Now on the home screen, we have up here at the top, these 2 rows up here are referred to as the taskbar, okay? The taskbar is how you get access to different functions. So if we come over to the marketing, these are some of the things in the marketing, some of the things in production, setup where you make changes to the system, different tools, okay? So a lot of functions across the top. The second row is also taskbar related, and these are icons. And you'll notice that if you're on a different version, an older version than 6.1, these icons are going to look different. So this latest version, some of the icons and the color schemes have been changed. Now each of these have little downward arrows. So if you're going to get ready to create an estimate or an order or add a new company, you just select the downward arrow, and now you can choose what it is that you like to do. So adding something new, companies, orders, estimates, exploring. We'll talk about it in a little bit. That's how you're going to find things. Time clock related, posting payments, quick products. We'll talk a little bit about it before we finish either today or Thursday. Printing, marketing. This one is cool. Support. This is a newer feature. And if you would like to or have a need to get help, something is not functioning properly, this will provide you a means of initiating a service ticket and actually submitting that service ticket to the software folks in Baton Rouge. This is helpful to them because it eliminates the need to read emails and or answer phones, and it gives you a means of keeping track of history. So keep that aware that you can now submit service tickets. You can also history is new. I'll talk a little bit about the history in a bit. History is, I know from my own experience years ago, sometimes you can't remember how you found something. So the purpose of history is to give you a history of what you've done over time. So these little guys here are called pinned. These are estimates or orders that I have specifically tagged or pinned, and those always bubble to the top. These are other things that I have done during a course of time. So the purpose of the history is to give you an opportunity to kind of get a quick refresher of what you've been doing so that you can more quickly and more easily get back to where you might want to be. Look here real quick. The action toolbar, that's this guy over here on the right. and it's going to differ. What it looks like is going to differ depending on what you're doing. So if you're working on entering a new company, then the task or the action toolbar will look different. If you're working on an order or an estimate, it will look slightly different. You will always have the cancel. You will always have the save. Other things that you will see there that are common is the ability to print an estimate or print an order. You may have the option of cloning or duplicating something. So what appears in the action toolbar varies depending on what in the world is going on in control at that point in time. So if we were to open an estimate that already exists, just pick that one at random. Now you see the complete list of things that you can do on the action toolbar. Okay, I've hit a little bit already on the dashboard. I kind of took a couple of those things out of sequence. The key takeaways here are the pointing you to the to a taskbar up here at the top and the different functions, and the fact that you can choose and choose a different dashboard if you would like, and you can change permanently what your dashboard is by going into the user options, which I'll do in a bit. Any questions on this? Let me just, before I open it up for questions, let me go back to one more thing. Here on this particular dashboard, I want to draw your attention to these two things. These take you directly out to the Sirius training website. This one takes you to the Sirius.com customer. That's where you can see all the training videos and things of that nature. And the production app is a new feature that is what it sounds like. It's the ability to operate off of a mobile device like an iPhone 6 or iPhone or a Galaxy device, either Android or iOS. These are pretty cool. We demonstrated the use of this, in September, and it's a new feature. Let me stop here to see if we have some questions, and then I'll move on.
We don't have any questions, Paul.
Had to take a swig of coffee. Cheated a little bit. Okay, this next piece I want to talk about is how you find things. And you find things in control using Explorer. Now, Explorer up here in the taskbar is probably the primary source that you're going to use to start searching for something. But you can also do it on this particular dashboard, down here with the icon. So you begin the search to find something by choosing the downward arrow. Now, what is it that you want to find? That's your first question. Do you want to look for orders? Do you want to look for estimates? Do you want to look for companies? Do you want to look for contacts within a company, for particular vendors? Obviously, the most common ones that you're going to use probably more repetitively are exploring for orders, exploring for estimates, exploring for contact or customers or companies, and perhaps contacts. So let's pick one. Let's pick the company. Some of the key things that I want to draw your attention to. If we look at this downward arrow again, they're all together. in this list, there are about 15 or so items, types of things that you can search for. So if I choose the company that I want to search, I tell the system that I want to search for companies. Now you have, and that's reflected right here. I'm viewing companies. Now I can change what I'm looking for from here by choosing a different one, okay? Each of the things that you're searching for, in this particular case, companies, you're going to have search criteria that you have to consider, and you have filters. And the criteria will differ if you're viewing companies versus viewing orders. The filters will be different if you're viewing estimates or you're viewing orders, okay? So what I want to do is focus on the company for right now. If I type the letter A, the system is going to begin searching. And notice that it doesn't find anything in here that begins with an A. Well, sometimes that can spook you, because now you have to consider the filters. This filter is saying that I'm only searching for clients. Clients mean that they have orders or estimates. Prospects, on the other hand, are companies that you have entered into the database but have yet to have an order or an estimate. So if I put a check mark on the prospect, I chose wrong. How about if we try the one T? I thought I had added one. Okay, so I just typed the letter T, and it's showing 5 different companies. So the further I type, so far it's the commonality are these 4. Okay. So if I type now an A, now it eliminates the others. The point is that as you begin to type, in this example, the company name, the system is working it right in parallel with you to continuously narrow down in the display of the results of your search. So you can type as few letters as you want or as many letters as you want. Now, the system will tell you that in my case, I don't have that many companies in here. It won't display every company or every order. For efficiency purposes, it limits the number that it will actually look for. But you can always look for more. You can always tell it, I want to see all of them, okay? So I talked only about the search criteria in the context of a company by talking about the name, the company name. I could have searched based on a person's first name or their last name or their email address or combinations of all of those, okay? I can further search down here in the filters. So I can say I want to see only customers that have estimates, or only ones that have orders, or both. Okay, so now it's condensed it down. This is the only customer that I've got in this particular database that has both estimates and orders. Okay, so the criteria differs between what it is that you're looking for. So as we change this so that we're looking for orders, the order criteria, or the criteria related to orders, is slightly different, and the filters are slightly different. So in the context of orders, the filters allow you to say, I want to find orders that are in work in process, built, and the sales status, closed status, or voided. Now, the more mature your shop is, your business is and becomes, that's going to create a lot of things that are going to need to be displayed. So depending on what it is, you may only want to find things that are in work in process, or either work in process or in built status. So it's showing me the status over here, and I fortunately have one that's in a built status. Okay? So in addition to the check marks related to the statuses of an order, you can also choose the time frame. So in this particular example, it's only looking for things that have been produced this year. So that would be calendar year 2017. I can change that to look for everything in the entire database, regardless of the age. I can enter a custom start date and end date. I can go to standard set of criteria, would be today, this week, this month, yesterday, last week, past week, etc. Or I could go to search based on closeouts in the system, and so forth. So you can, how you're searching, if it's order, you got the filters are going to deal with the statuses of orders in addition to the date range. If we switch this real quickly to estimates, it's going to look very similar but slightly different. The search criteria will be a little bit different than what it was for orders. And here you have the same concept of display filters, but now these filters are in the context of estimates. So if I'm only interested in things that are pending, that have not yet resulted in either being converted to an order or have been marked as lost or converted or have actually been voided, now I'm looking just at those that are in a pending status. If I want to, for whatever reason, I want to see just those that I have voided, I would change the filter. Same discussion on the date range. Just things that are this year, and now it's going to change. As I've bounced through here, initially for companies and then for orders and then for estimates, if you say you want a specific set of filters for estimates, where you're always looking at this year, you're always looking for just things that are in pending, so that you don't have to reset that every time you start an estimate search. Once you've established what your filters are, and perhaps even some criteria up here, you can save those. So the next time I come in and want to do a search for estimates, it's going to show the filters and any other criteria that I established will have been saved, from what I chose to do. Now, I'm going to come back up to viewing companies. Let me just look through my notes here. Yep, I'm getting ready to do this. Okay. Now, this is a very, very powerful thing that I'm going to show you next, okay? So we're viewing companies up here at the top. If you look at the bottom of the screen, down in the lower left-hand corner, you see Explorer Type. And above it, the title of it is Sub Explorer. And I can choose the downward arrow, and I can say I want to, I refer to this as a split screen. So up here at the top, we're looking at the primary view that we started with. Down at the bottom, I'm looking at the sub view of this company that's selected up here at the top. And these represent the orders that are in the system for this particular client. So if I switch gears, and this one doesn't have any orders, okay? If I switch this to estimates, this represents the estimates that exist for this particular customer, okay? This is a very, very efficient way to quickly find things. If you know the company, tackle the company. Do that as your primary search. And then decide, okay, now that I know what the company is that I want, what is it about that company that I'm interested in? And use the Sub Explorer as a means of quickly finding your primary search, and then secondarily coming down to the to the sub view that you're looking for. I'm just looking at my notes, making sure. There's one thing that I want to introduce here that is new to version 6.1 of Control, and I'm going to show it in viewing orders, and it's called associated orders. You can see here. So in what this is saying is that invoice number 1012 is not associated with any other like order. 1011 is associated with this one. 9 is associated with 12. It's a way, associated orders are a way of grouping like or linking like orders together. So let's look at one of these. I'm just going to open this one. And there's two important areas to bring to your attention about associated orders. Again, this pertains to 6.1 users. Up here in the top left, this is the order that I have open, number 1011. And it is telling me that it is associated with order number 1012. And not only that, but it originated from estimate number 530. So if I'm looking at 1011 and I want to see what that estimate was, I can simply click the link, and now I've got the two of them side by side. Okay? So if we go back to this one, and I want to look at that 1012 that it's associated with, now I've got a view of the current order, what it originated from in this particular case, estimate number 530, and the fact that it's associated with order number 1012. And then you can see that in Explorer by having the the column chooser show associated orders. Again, I have to remind you that the this is a new feature that's part of Control 6.1. I'm just looking at my notes. On Thursday, I'll be talking a little bit more about the practical uses of the associated order in the context of, for example, of payment processing and how it can be facilitated there. So the key takeaways here on the searching is that you're going to do common searches, most likely involving companies, estimates, and orders, maybe contacts. Every type of search, regardless of whether it's company or estimate or orders, you're going to have to be sensitive to the search criteria. And secondly, you're going to have to pay attention to the filters. And if you can save those parameters so that you don't have to reselect them every time you would start a search for a company or an order. And then secondly, the what I consider to be very, very high value and powerfulness of the Sub-Explorer, so that you can see a combination of the primary search and the associated secondary search. Let me pause again to see if we got some questions.
Paul, we don't have any questions.
All right. Let me close this down. All right. Next, I want to talk a little bit about some user options. User options you're going to get to up in the setup area, up here at the top. In the setup area, you got a lot of different things that's going on up here. You got user options. I'll explain a little bit more about those. Machine setup, employee setup, adding employees, system-related setup, accounting, and pricing. Now, not everybody is going to have access to all of the setup features, okay? They are tightened down with the security privileges, so your owner manager is going to establish when a new employee is added what their security privileges are, okay? Now, system level setup, all of those things, parameters that are system related, apply to everybody that logs in. So it's global in nature. Examples of some of the things that would be in the system setup would be system related email, what the email is, whether you're going to use Outlook as the outgoing vehicle source, or if you're going to use a different one. A lot of other things. User options, on the other hand, represent your way of tweaking the system to suit your particular preferences. You can do that at the transaction level. You can do that as it pertains to how Explorer works, and on down the line. Now, I'm going to focus my comments on the, well, let me do the email first. If you want to use your email, then in user options under email options, this is telling the system that you personally are going to be using Outlook or some other means of email, and that is going to be unique to your login. Okay. Let me come back up to this one. This in the user options. This is where you choose what the home dashboard is that you want to use. Okay. So you can choose your dashboard that is more suited to what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be using, control. And then lastly, under miscellaneous, I'm going to edit this so you can see it a little bit better. If you recall, I talked a little bit about the auto lock and the auto log off. This is where you turn those features either on or off. So if you don't want the system to lock after a certain period of time, the check mark would be off. If you don't want the system to log you out after a certain period of idle minutes, then you'd leave it unchecked. If you want it to log you off after the period of time, the default's going to be 10 minutes. But if you wanted that to be 30 minutes, that's fine, okay? And if you want both the lock and the log off to function, one can operate under a 10-minute period of idleness or some other value, and a different value for the log off. The other thing that I wanted to comment on was the timestamp format. The timestamp is a cool little feature where you can, using the control, the keys to enter it like a timestamp. Okay, so let me show you real quick what I'm talking about. I'm going to come down and look at. I'm just going to pick notes. Okay, if I want to put in here, I chose the wrong word. Didn't want to do that. Under what is that? Control T.
Yes, it's Control T.
Well, it must be different than. Well, I'm on an Apple.
It's Control Alt T. Sorry.
Ah, okay. I always get myself confused on the different. There it is. I'm not going to dwell on it. Using a timestamp, actually, with the you can do the Alt Control key and a T, the letter T, and it will put the timestamp up there. It's just an efficient way to add notes and stuff of that nature. So the key things here to cover quickly are the different options that tune it to your preferences. The key ones that you're going to use most likely are choosing which dashboard you want, possibly setting up your own personal email preferences, how you can manage the use or not using the auto log in or log off or lock out, and then the timestamp. Any questions here?
No questions, Paul.
All right. We're trucking along pretty good. All right. Next thing I want to talk about is just a quick overview of the Activity Manager. So you can get at it here. And what we're looking at, starting up here at the top, you can look at it in the calendar view or just a list. Okay? Down here, you can say, I want to look at one day, which is what's selected. I want to look at a 5-day increment, a 7-day increment and all the way out to 30, okay? I can say I want to show only, the completed items. Let's go back to 5-day view. So now for the next 5 days, you see what is going on. Now, over here on the far left-hand side, the list of the calendar view, okay? So I'm looking at my calendar, your calendar for your particular login. But if I want to see the calendar of Linda, now I can add hers, and I can not only see my calendar, but I can also see Linda's calendar. So if you're scheduling a meeting, or you need to schedule something and you need to look at their calendar to see when they're available, then just come over here to the view, select their calendar, and now you can see whether they're free, okay? And then you can save those preferences if you want. I'm going to take this off again, and I'm going to come back to a 1-day view. Now, if I want to add something, I can come over here to the right where it says activities, and there are some things that I can do. I can create an activity for an email. I can create a note, a call, an appointment, schedule a meeting, just a simple old to-do. So if I want to schedule an appointment, this brings up the appointment screen. I can choose over here in the left who all I want to be included in this appointment. So if it's myself and someone else, I can include Linda on that. This is the type of activity that I'm creating. Some other criteria, I can pertain it to a particular company. Put in any kind of notes that I want to use down here. I can schedule the time, or the date. So let's schedule it for next Tuesday. It can be scheduled so that I'm going to actually schedule the time for this, or it can be a timeless, meaning that it's just basically for the day itself. I can tell the system that if it's not completed on the scheduled date, then it will roll forward to the next day's calendar, okay? It can be private for yourself. It can be made so that it's a recurring event. I can select the time that I want to schedule it for, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's going to be a 30-minute meeting from 2 to 2:30, and then say okay. All right, now let's come out to the 17th, and here's the activity that I just added, okay? And if I look at Linda's, because I chose her too, so this is my calendar, and it shows on her calendar as well, okay? So, whoops, you're going to add activities, the different variety of activities that you can create. You could come into here, just anywhere in here, and if you use a right mouse click, you can say new, and then start a meeting calendar, okay? So you can either use the activities pull down over here in the action toolbar, or from within the calendar, do a right mouse click and schedule an event. Common things that the activity manager are used for, obviously, are scheduling meetings. Secondly, scheduling appointments, with customers. It might be sales-related appointments with customers. The activity manager can also be used to schedule production people. It can actually be used to schedule equipment. That's beyond where I want to go here. But the activity manager is a quite powerful tool, for you to, particularly if you're involved in the sales process or even in the production process. The activity manager is a very valuable tool, simply because it's a way of staying in touch and communicating with all of the people that need to be aware of something, that you all see the same calendar event, based on how you set it up and who all you chose, to be on that event. Any questions on the activity manager?
No questions, Paul.
All right. Just a couple of things to wrap up. Other resources. I'll bring you back to the home screen and go out to the website, or you can just use your Explorer. If you're not in Control, just use your Explorer, Internet Explorer, and get out to the website. I'm doing it the lazy way. And on this website, there we go. If I go up here, let me bring this across. Are you seeing Control, or are you seeing the...
We're seeing Control, Paul.
Okay. Let me switch calendar or the views.
Now we can see the website.
Okay. So up here under training, this is a list of all of the different training related videos and tutorials. So if you've got an interest in something, just Activity Manager. Now it's going to do a search. Okay, now it's brought up all of the different topics that are related to the Activity Manager. If you're interested in just finding out different things about estimates, all of the topics related to estimates. So this is there's a huge repository of services on the Sirius website, and just please don't forget that those resources are there. There are other services that are available for you that you can find on that particular website. There are training documents, wiki documents. So it's just a good way to to be able to explore and find things that may be of interest to you. Sometime as you're going along. Okay, we got about 5 or 6 minutes left. So let's just open it up to see if we've got any questions of any nature. It doesn't have to be about what we talked about today, just anything that might be of interest to you. You guys have been really quiet today. Hope this has been helpful. The webinar was recorded, and I think later this afternoon it will likely be distributed or available to you. And I sure hope that you'll join us again on Thursday, and we'll continue some of the discussion on some different topics. We'll begin with adding companies and contacts, creating some estimates and orders. We'll spend quite a bit of time talking about changing statuses and what the intended use of these statuses, and another concept called stations. We'll illustrate some posting of payments, and we'll talk about the associated orders in that kind of context. We'll look at the notion of quick products and how you can set those up to suit your preferences. And then we'll wrap up our discussion on Thursday, talking about different print options. So if we have no more questions, I don't want to hold you. I hope this has been a good session for you. We'll talk to you on Thursday, hopefully.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.